Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you just didn't fit in? Like the world had its own rules, and while everyone else seemed eager to play along, you stood quietly in the background, not because you couldn't play, but because you didn't want to. If that's ever been you even once, then stick around, because this video might just explain why. And not only that, it might just change your love life, the way you see yourself, and the way the world sees you. So before we dive into it, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, smash that like button, and most importantly, watch this video till the end. Because if you truly are what I think you are, you're not just any man, you're something rarer. You might be a Sigma male, the rarest man on Earth. There's a story I want to tell you. Once upon a time, not in a fairy tale, but in a real-life world where everyone is constantly told to chase status, money, approval, likes, and attention, there lived a man named Daniel. Daniel didn't chase the crowd. He didn't dress to impress. He didn't speak unless he had something worth saying. At parties, he stood near the edge of the room, sipping his drink quietly, observing, while the alpha males competed for attention, telling stories too loud, laughing too hard, showing off their latest watch or car. Daniel, he was calm, focused, quietly confident. Women noticed him, but they couldn't figure him out. Who is he? Why does he seem so different? Why does his silence speak louder than other men's shouting? That, my friend, is the essence of the Sigma male. But before we define what that really means, let's get something straight. Being a Sigma male isn't a trend. It's not some TikTok aesthetic or something you wear like a jacket. It's a personality type, a way of existing in the world. And most importantly, it's rare. Only a small fraction of men are truly Sigma. And it's that rarity that gives them their silent power. You see, society has spent years glorifying alpha males, the loud, dominant, aggressive leaders. We're told, be assertive, be loud, dominate the room. That's how you win. Then there's the beta males, the followers, the agreeable types who avoid confrontation, go with the flow, and stay in the background. But then hidden behind all that noise is a third type. A man who doesn't play the social game but still wins. He walks alone not because he can't lead, but because he chooses freedom over control. That man is the Sigma male. So what makes him so rare? Let's break it down. Habit number 1. He lives by his own rules. Let me tell you something most people don't understand, especially when it comes to men who are truly different. There's a kind of man out there who doesn't fit into society's carefully labeled boxes. He doesn't walk the way others walk. He doesn't talk just to talk. And he doesn't play by the rules set by a system he never agreed to. That man lives by his own rules. You might be that man. And if you are, you've probably felt it your whole life. You've felt it in the way you look at the world, the way crowds exhaust you, the way shallow conversations drain you, the way everyone else seems so comfortable playing a game that, to you, feels hollow. Let's take it back a bit. Think about school. Remember how some kids would fight to be the loudest, the funniest, the most popular? They needed attention like oxygen. But you were different. You didn't need to be seen to know who you were. You didn't need applause to feel valuable. That wasn't because you were shy, or awkward, or antisocial. It was because you were grounded. You were aware. You saw through things. You saw the masks. You saw how easily people changed who they were just to fit in, sacrificing their real identity for approval they didn't even need. And deep down, even at a young age, you made a choice. I'd rather walk alone than follow the herd. That choice makes you a Sigma. See, Sigma males live life on their terms, not because they want to rebel, but because they want to be free. They don't care what's trending. They don't care what others are doing. They don't care if people think they're weird, mysterious, or unapproachable. What they care about deeply is authenticity, integrity, truth. They ask questions that others avoid. Why am I doing this? Does this make sense to me? Is this the life I really want, or the one I was told to want? That inner dialogue, that's what separates a Sigma from the rest, and that's what makes him so rare. Most men never break free from the need for validation. They need likes, status, followers, recognition. They measure their worth through external achievements, cars, money, titles. But the Sigma male, he could have nothing and still feel whole, because his confidence doesn't come from outside, it comes from within. This kind of man doesn't shout to be heard, he doesn't beg to be seen, and he doesn't need to be the center of attention to feel important. He walks into a room and doesn't try to own it. He just exists in it, quiet, calm, confident. And what happens next? Everyone starts wondering who he is. You see, when you live by your own rules, people notice even if they don't understand it. Some will be drawn to it. Some will fear it. Some will try to label it. But no one will be able to ignore it. That's what makes you dangerous in the best way possible. But let me be honest, it's not always easy. Living by your own rules often means walking alone. It means being misunderstood, judged, maybe even rejected. It means making hard choices, sacrificing comfort for freedom, routine for growth, approval for truth. But that's the price of being rare. And if you're a Sigma male, you're not here to fit in. You're here to live true. So don't doubt yourself. Don't shrink to make others comfortable. Don't play small just to avoid attention. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to rise quietly and leave a mark they'll never forget. And trust me, when you live your life according to your own rules, something powerful happens. You stop chasing. You start attracting. You stop pleasing. You start leading, not loudly, not forcefully, but powerfully, authentically, and without apology. So if you've ever felt like the world just doesn't get you, maybe that's because you're not like the world. Maybe you're something rarer. Habit number 2. He's not antisocial, he's selectively social. Let's clear up one of the biggest misconceptions about Sigma males. People love to label what they don't understand, right? They see a man who's quiet, who keeps to himself, who doesn't need to be out every weekend, and they say, he's antisocial. But that couldn't be further from the truth. The Sigma male isn't antisocial. He's selectively social, and that is a huge difference. Let's break this down. Picture this, you're at a gathering, a birthday maybe, music playing, people mingling, laughter bouncing off the walls, everyone's chatting, taking selfies, shouting over each other, and there you are, standing in the corner. Not awkward, not lonely, just observing. People might think you're uncomfortable, but you're not. You're analyzing. You're absorbing energy. You're feeling the room before deciding who, if anyone, is worth engaging. Because you don't waste your energy. You don't talk just to talk. You don't laugh to fit in. You don't fake enthusiasm just because it's expected. That's not antisocial. That's self-respect. You value your time, your energy, your presence, and you don't give those things away easily. You're the kind of man who can spend a weekend alone, reading, thinking, planning, training, and feel more alive than someone who went to 5 parties and posted them all on Instagram. It's not that you dislike people, it's that you crave depth, not noise. You want real conversation, not small talk. You want connection, not networking. You want intimacy, not popularity. That's what makes you different. That's what makes you rare. And here's what most people don't realize. Because you're so selective with your energy. When you do show up, you light up the room because people can feel it. Your attention is powerful. Your silence is magnetic. Your presence feels earned. You don't just exist in spaces. You make them feel intentional. That's why women are often drawn to Sigma males, even if they don't know why. It's not about looks or charm or money. It's about the vibe. It's the mystery. It's the fact that you're not seeking attention, and that makes people curious. Who is he? Why doesn't he need to be seen? What's going on in his mind? And when you finally do speak, when you offer a thoughtful comment, a clever insight, or a sincere compliment, it hits harder, because people can feel that you mean it. Your words carry weight because your silence does too. That's what selective social behavior looks like. It's not loneliness. It's not awkwardness. It's deliberate presence. It's power. And let me say this, in a world addicted to constant interaction, people like you are rare. And that's something to be proud of. Yes, it means you might lose friends along the way. You might not always be included. You might walk alone more often than not. But it also means you'll only ever surround yourself with what's real. Real people, real love, real conversations, real connection. And isn't that what truly matters? So the next time someone calls you distant, smile. Because they don't get it, but deep down a part of them wishes they did. Habit number 3, he's deeply self-aware. There's a moment that happens to every man, usually in silence, usually alone. You're lying in bed late at night staring at the ceiling. No distractions. No phone, no noise, and for the first time in a while you hear it, your own thoughts. Am I really happy with where I am? Why do I keep repeating the same mistakes? Who am I really when no one's watching? Most people drown that voice out. They open Instagram, turn on Netflix, text someone, scroll endlessly. Because facing yourself? That's hard, but not for the Sigma male. See, the Sigma doesn't run from those moments. He runs toward them. He craves silence, not to escape, but to understand. Because at the heart of every Sigma male is deep, honest, and sometimes brutal self-awareness. Let me explain. While most men are trained to look outward, chasing money, women's status, the Sigma male looks inward. He wants to know why he does what he does, what wounds he still carries, what beliefs he's inherited from a society that never really spoke to him. He's not afraid to sit in discomfort, to ask himself, did I handle that situation well? Or am I being led by ego or truth? That kind of reflection, that's rare. It's emotional intelligence. It's the ability to name your feelings instead of being controlled by them. It's the ability to know your patterns, your triggers, your habits, your coping mechanisms, and reshape them into something better. Most men react. Sigma males reflect, and that one trait alone, it changes everything. Relationships, work, friendships, purpose, even love. Let me tell you a quick story. There was a time when Daniel, our quiet, Sigma male, was in a relationship that felt off. There wasn't fighting, no drama. From the outside, it looked fine. But deep down, he felt drained. Every time he compromised his time, every time he said yes when he meant no, a little piece of him disappeared. So he did what most men don't. He paused, took a weekend alone, journaled, reflected, meditated, asked himself questions that hurt. Why am I staying? What am I afraid of? Is this love or fear of being alone? And by Monday, he walked away. Not because she was a bad person, but because he knew deep down she wasn't aligned with who he really was. That's what self-awareness gives you, clarity. The ability to walk away from what isn't meant for you. Not because you don't care, but because you care enough about yourself. Sigma males don't ignore red flags. They study them, and they act accordingly. This kind of inner work, it's not glamorous. You don't post it. You don't get applause for it, but it changes your life. You become emotionally bulletproof, not cold, but in control. You stop reacting to every little thing. You stop arguing just to be right. You stop seeking revenge or validation or petty wins. Instead, you rise above. You see your own flaws without shame. You take ownership. You grow. And that's what separates you from most men. They live by default. You live by design. Because once you know who you are, truly know, you become unstoppable. You don't chase women. You attract them through presence. You don't chase purpose, you create it through intention. You don't fear loneliness, you master it. So if you're someone who questions everything, who feels deeply, who reflects often, that's not weakness. That's power. That's Sigma energy. And the more you lean into it, the more your life aligns with truth. Habit number 4. He's attractively unavailable. Let's talk about something that drives most people crazy, but also fascinates them at the deepest level. Unavailable men. Now, I'm not talking about men who ghost, manipulate, or emotionally damage others. I'm talking about a specific kind of man, the one who doesn't need you, but still chooses you. And that man is often a Sigma male. He's not cold. He's not heartless. He's not playing games. He's just complete. And in a world full of emotionally needy, approval-seeking people, that kind of self-containment, it's intoxicating. Let me paint a picture. Most guys, when they meet a woman they like, go full chase mode. They overtext, overgive, overexplain. They adjust their schedule, their personality, even their values just to keep her interested. But the Sigma male, he doesn't chase. He doesn't need to, because his life is already full, already interesting, already grounded. He's not out here trying to prove he's a man. He's too busy being one. And that shift in energy, women feel it. It's not arrogance, it's magnetism. It's the unspoken energy of I'm good with or without you. That's what makes him attractively unavailable. He's not ignoring you to get a reaction. He's not creating distance to look cool. He's just doing his thing, building his vision, protecting his peace. He shows up only when it's real. And that kind of presence, that changes the game. Let me tell you a story. Daniel once dated a woman who was used to being chased. She was stunning, smart, high energy. Men would trip over themselves to get her attention. But Daniel, he treated her like a human, not a prize. He took 2 days to reply, not because he was playing it cool, but because he was in the zone, working on something important, dialed into his purpose. When they spoke, he was kind, respectful, present, but never desperate. And that drove her wild. Why? Because she had never met a man who could walk away, who didn't make her his entire universe after 2 dates, who didn't beg for attention, who simply said, with his presence, "You're welcome to walk beside me, but I'm not stopping my journey for anyone." That is rare. And here's the truth. Women don't want a man who needs them. They want a man who wants them, but doesn't crumble if they walk away. That's the Sigma difference. He chooses love. He gives fully, but never from emptiness. He doesn't pour from an empty cup. He fills his own first and then shares the overflow. And that's attractive. That's powerful. That's what makes him unforgettable. So if you've ever felt like you were too independent, too calm, too distant, too hard to read, maybe that's not something you need to fix. Maybe it's your gift. Because in a world full of men who chase and chase and chase, you stand still. And that stillness, that's what draws everything toward you. Habit number 5, he plays the long game. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you paused? I mean, really paused and thought about the future? Not next week, not next month, but 5 years from now, 10, 20, what kind of man do you want to be then? Because the truth is, most people don't think that far ahead. They live for the next dopamine hit, the next like, the next compliment, the next temporary relationship that makes them feel less alone. But the Sigma male, he sees through that. He doesn't live for the moment. He lives for the mission. He plays the long game. Let me tell you what that means. While others are busy impressing strangers, chasing fast money and trying to appear successful, the Sigma is building something real. He doesn't need to be seen now. He doesn't need applause in the beginning, because he knows the real reward doesn't come in the form of instant validation. It comes from becoming the kind of man who earns his peace, his power, and his respect over time. Let me share a story with you. When Daniel, our Sigma male, graduated college, most of his friends jumped into jobs they didn't care about. They wanted a paycheck, a status title, something to post about. Daniel didn't rush. He worked part-time, lived simply, and spent his nights building a vision no one else could see. Years passed. People laughed. Some even said he was wasting his time. But Daniel wasn't distracted, because while they were partying on weekends, he was investing in skills. While they were showing off leased cars, he was reading, studying, failing quietly. And 5 years later, Daniel didn't need to flex. His life spoke for itself. A business built from scratch. A body forged through consistency. A mindset sharpened by failure. And most importantly, a peace no one could buy or break. That's what playing the long game gets you. See, Sigma males aren't impressed by fast results. They're impressed by mastery. They're not here for one-night wins. They're here for decades of dominance. They understand what most people don't. True success takes time. It takes focus, discipline, sacrifice. It means skipping the party to stay home and work. It means saying no to relationships that distract you. It means embracing loneliness as a training ground, not a punishment. That's why the Sigma doesn't rush love. He doesn't settle just because he's lonely. He doesn't enter relationships out of boredom. He's patient, because he knows if he becomes the man he's meant to be, the right woman will recognize him without effort. He doesn't chase women. He chases his potential. He doesn't want quick chemistry. He wants long-term alignment. And when it comes to business, career, fitness, same thing. He doesn't care if it takes 5 years, 10, 20, because he's building a life that lasts, not just one that looks good for now. But here's the part no one talks about. Playing the long game is lonely. There are seasons where you question everything, where you feel like no one sees your effort, where you work in silence while others shine loudly, where you wonder, is it even worth it? And to that I say, yes, because every rep you do when no one's watching, every late night spent grinding when others are out, every relationship you walk away from because it doesn't align, it all compounds. You're not losing time, you're investing it. And one day when the smoke clears and the noise fades, you'll stand alone on a mountain you built yourself, and people will look at you like you came out of nowhere. But you'll know the truth. You didn't come out of nowhere. You just stayed where you were while everyone else gave up. That's what the Sigma male understands at his core. Success is not for the impatient. Love is not for the desperate. Power is not for the weak-willed. It's for the man who can delay gratification, who can sacrifice now for something bigger later, who knows that the best fruit takes the longest to grow. So if you feel like you're behind, if you feel like no one sees your progress, if you feel like the world is rushing ahead while you're standing still, take a breath and smile, because while they sprint, you're building. While they chase approval, you're chasing mastery. And in the end, the man who plays the long game wins, not because he was faster, but because he was wiser, because he planted seeds no one could see, watered them in silence, and waited. And now, he's reaping what others never had the patience to sow. So ask yourself this: are you willing to be misunderstood today so you can be undeniable tomorrow? Because that's the Sigma path. That's the long game. And it's the only game worth playing. But here's the truth that nobody tells you. Being a Sigma male is not always easy. It can feel isolating, misunderstood, even lonely. You might be called arrogant, cold, distant, or weird because people don't know how to define you. You're not loud enough to be alpha, not agreeable enough to be beta. You're something else. And because of that, you might have gone through life wondering, where do I fit in? But that's the thing. You're not meant to fit in. You're meant to stand out in your own quiet, powerful, meaningful way. And once you embrace that, everything changes. You stop chasing people who don't get you. You stop explaining yourself. You stop doubting your path. And you start walking taller, alone if you must, but never lonely. Because Sigma males don't need the crowd. They are their own crowd. And that's the rarest thing of all. So let me ask you again, have you ever felt like you didn't fit in? Because if you have, it's not because you're broken. It's because you're rare. You're a Sigma male. And in a world full of noise, fakes, and copycats, your quiet truth is gold. So own it. Walk with it. Lead from the shadows. And remember, just because the world doesn't understand you, doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means you're ahead of your time. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.